Okay, everyone, it is Ray. How are you doing? I think I have the wrong thing. Here, let's go on my full screen. Um, and this is the first time I've used Restream completely live, and I'm on, hopefully, you can hear me. I'm on what is it called, this program? Yeah, OBS, which is interesting. And as you can see on the bottom here is my website, raylifecoaching.com / free dash resources. And we are talking today about stop apologizing for who you are. And it's the first episode of this confidence toolkit, really, that I have for people pleasers, and just initiating some conversation about um, how to be more confident and why it's so important. My biggest reasoning for this, for the confidence toolkit, is loneliness. I think it's something that came up for me as a polyamorous person, and probably one of the reasons that I even became polyamorous. I didn't know it until way later. And so I'm going to tell you a quick story about me, and then we'll get into the topics for today, which is the topics for today is the cost of shrinking yourself. So, a story about myself and why I'm even doing this for you all is I think it was 2014. I started swing dancing, and it was really hard for me because I had really been closeted. I had just not even gotten myself out. I didn't even realize how housebound I had made myself and how scared I was. But I needed to change. And before that, I had started my own business because, again, for many reasons of making sure I wasn't so affected by others. And we're going to talk today a little bit, very little bit, about attachment styles. And I'm just going to divulge, like, I've learned through a lot of the work that I've been doing in the past few years that I'm primarily anxious, but I'm probably right. My main one is probably fearful avoidant. I think I've worked kind of, I understand my dismissive side more, but there are things that do bring that out in me. Um, and so we're going to talk about what these attachment styles are later. But so I was going back to my story about why I'm doing this in the first place. And in 2014, I started swing dancing, and I learned that I was so touch deprived. And so I was saying that the whole premise of this is loneliness for me. And I didn't really realize it until way later. And 2017 came around, and I came out as polyamorous. And I think the starting my business in 2012, 2013, to swing dancing, getting more physical, more social, more connected with people, and then coming out as polyamorous really was the succession for me that I needed. I needed to separate myself from my work and feel confident in that way, make my own schedule. And that helped me come out and start to really engage people. And then I learned something about myself, something that I probably was hiding for so long, and probably the reason why all the problems were happening in the first place and why I stopped being social. So that's why shrinking yourself is, it makes sense. Um, it makes sense that we do this because we're scared, right? And in the climate today, I can totally understand why a lot of us don't want to get out of our house, or speak up, or maybe we don't want to deal with conflict at all, uh, in any small way. Okay, so let's get to the topic at hand, which is Stop apologizing for yourself and the cost of shrinking. And I'm just going to go to my little screen for myself so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's see where everyone is to see if I can have. And if you are here and if you're in this space, feel free to just say in the comments. And I just have to make sure. I have like too many screens up. It's really confusing. Okay, so let's start. Thank you for coming again to Stop Apologizing for Who You Are. And again, my name is Ray from Ray Life Coaching. And the episode 1 is about the cost of shrinking yourself. Before we get into boundaries and attachment styles, which we're primarily going to talk about attachment styles, but boundaries really more about, yes, saying no without an excuse. Let's talk about what the why is behind the way we show up in the world, starting with how our brain works. And when I say brain, I really mean how our thoughts affect our and our beliefs affect the way we behave. And okay, so here we go. So your brain is a storytelling machine. Your nervous system is a survival mechanism. And so I don't know if you know anything about the nervous system, but your nervous system is like the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. It's like rest and digest and fight, freeze, flee. Like I always say these wrong. Sorry, I like totally lost it, but you know what I mean. It's the other side where your sympathetic nervous system is like being jolted from like being some fear or anything. And how you react is either you flee, you freeze, or you fight, or you fawn. And there's probably another one, which I'm forgetting in this moment. And those tell you something about your attachment style. Okay, so we're going to go back to that later. Okay, so when you were born, you had 2 innate fears. And they are the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. But the fear that wires most of our adult behavior is one we learned, and it's the fear of abandonment. Because infants, if they're left, they pretty much die, right? And we need each other to survive, especially as a baby out of the womb. So we adapt and we perform and we people please and we disconnect. Okay, so I'm gonna make a little argument about the attachment styles related to people pleasing and disconnection. I'm gonna say that any attachment style that is insecure pretty much has all of these things. And what I'm really saying is, if you're insecure, if you have an insecure attachment style and you're acting in that place, then you are disconnecting in some way from yourself or others, or both. And I would say both. And you most likely in some way are people pleasing. Your actions are in order for survival. And that survival is in some way, maybe not fawning, but you may be fawning yourself. Okay. So I'm going to argue that either one is hurtful and is creating loneliness in you. Okay. So along the way, we built belief systems, and that is where how we keep ourselves safe. And these belief systems are our stories. So we'll get into that. So next segment is beliefs, needs, and how emotions are created. All emotions come from one of 2 places: beliefs, which are our internal stories about how the world works, and needs, our universal human requirements for love, safety, rest, belonging, and purpose. We make all of our decisions based on emotions. Yeah, let me say that again. We make all of our decisions based on our emotions, even if we think it's our intellect. Our intellect is our conscious mind, if we're aware of it, like if we're consciously aware of what's happening in our intellect, if we're like trying to sort things out, that's our conscious mind trying to make it right. But we can't override our subconscious habits, and that is our nervous system that we're trying to override. But we can use its tools, and that's what the Confidence Toolkit's all about, that I have on my website. Go to raylifecoaching.com/free-resources. Okay. So one other fact. So our emotions are the determinant for our decision making. Okay. So it's how we make decisions is from our emotions. Our beliefs can be changed. Okay. So our stories can be changed. And as I said, there are two things that make up our emotions, that create emotion in us: our beliefs, and our needs are our universal, right, human needs. And those need to be fulfilled. And our subconscious mind is trying to fulfill them as quickly as possible with the tools that we know. And okay, so here we go. What we lose when we apologize for who we are. So we discussed kind of how the brain works a little bit, about emotions, needs, and beliefs. So every time you apologize for who you are, we lose something. We lose our voice, we lose our power, we lose our self-trust. And I'm just going to tell you a quick story about Jordan. And let me see if I can okay, Jordan was really bold on the stage, but invisible in his life. And okay, you might see this contradiction. We're going to talk about attachment styles, but I'm just going to tell you who Jordan is, what attachment style he is now. We'll talk about it later. Fearful avoidant. Okay, he has a mixed attachment style, which made him expressive yet guarded. And he downplayed his queerness, avoided confrontation, and mass vulnerability. But he was like really bold on the stage, like really gregarious, really social, but also you almost never really knew him. And maybe you thought you did because he had such engagement in that way. But he shrinked by staying silent. And not because he didn't have something to say, but because he feared being too much and not enough at the same time. So you would see somebody like this in fearful avoidant be somebody who, has like this kind of charisma a little bit, but then there's just a lot of surface. And so if someone, even their close friend, is saying something that's like contradictory to who they were, then they will stay silent. They may either fawn or they may leave, but most likely a fearful avoidant will leave. The other one, like if that happened, Jordan probably would just be silent and leave, or stop the conversation and, but not say what was actually going on. Like, hey, I'm queer, and you're talking about a queer person. They won't show themselves vulnerably like that. And like, it really hurts that you're doing that. Okay. So recognizing self-abandonment by attachment style. So that was an experience, a joint insecure attachment style. A fearful avoidant is a combination of the two other attachment styles. So we're going to go over the 3 insecure attachment styles. And the other one is just the secure attachment style. We're not going to go over that one. We'll do it in another video. Okay, so self-abandonment is when we leave ourselves emotionally, mentally, and physically in favor of being accepted by others. So I'm going to say that all of us have this in some way, shape, or form if we're acting in our insecure attachment style. And how we do that is, I'll describe right now related to the attachment style. So we're going to start with anxious attachment, or what some would call people pleasers. And here's just 3 descriptions of people pleasers. They say yes when they mean no, which really means they have very little boundaries. They constantly seek reassurance. They pretty much are looking for emotional soothing from the outside. And they don't really do a lot. They might not even like to be alone. So I'm going to give you an example from my own life. Like, I actually really, this is a sign that I was more fearful avoidant. I like to be alone. I really enjoy it, but that's because that was a coping mechanism for my childhood. But I also really like people. And I think that whole time that I was alone for, I don't know, about 10 years and kind of closeted myself was my fearful avoidant side. It was my avoidant side that I was not engaging. And then slowly I was trying to learn how to be vulnerable on the outside. But I didn't know how to, I still had the anxious side to it. So anxious attachment over apologizes to avoid conflict. Now that's kind of something I do, and so if you find that you're around somebody who says sorry all the time, most likely they're acting in their anxious attachment right at that moment. They may be fearful avoidant, but in that moment, for some reason, the dynamic of the situation brings out their anxious attachment. Okay, on the total opposite side of the spectrum for attachment styles is dismissive avoidant, and they disconnect from their feeling body. And I say feeling body because I think 2 are kind of together. So they might not even know what they're feeling. It might take them a real long time to process what's going on. If anything, if they're not processing, because they just don't know how to do that, then they're most likely their body, they also aren't aware of. And they may have a feeling or sensation, but they chalk it up more to an ailment. And then it progresses into a full-blown ailment in some way, shape, or form. So, and that's, I think, critical of a dismissive avoidant, or more on the avoidant side. You can still see it anywhere, but I do think that being disconnected from your body is a big sign that you're probably also not dealing with your emotions. Suppress needs to avoid vulnerability. So I think it's not just they suppress it. They're so used to not even thinking of a need in the moment. They might have a lot of big needs, of harmony and independence and ease, autonomy. But when it comes to needs in the moment, the clarity and specificity and to think and to be able to negotiate, where their boundaries are in small increments is hardest for them. They're very good at big boundaries, like, okay, I'm done. See ya. Bye. They believe they don't need anyone but suffer in isolation. So this is where the loneliness comes in. When you're dismissing your own feelings, inevitably you are lonely. That means that you're not connected to yourself, and therefore, as much as you might think you don't need people, you do, right? I mean, obviously as a baby. So somewhere along the line between probably 0 and 8 years old, we have learned how to relate. That is going to keep us safe. Also, other big traumas or some traumas along the way also teach us that. And subconsciously or unconsciously, we have learned some beliefs that make up our attachment style. So fearful avoidant is a flip between craving closeness and pushing people away. They experience emotional whiplash, which I do a lot, um, and doubt their worth and sabotage love. So, um, yeah, if you're finding yourself having a lot of highs and lows, you're probably in the throes of your anxious attachment style, your fearful avoidant attachment style, which means going from anxious to avoidant back and forth and not knowing where to be. There's a lot of trust issues that happen. And so the sabotage tends to be around that trust issue. And a lot of story making and looping around, you know, what might be happening without really believing what you're being told or seen. So that's the attachment styles. I'm just going to tell you a little story about somebody else that's an anxious attachment. So Leela took care of everyone else, but hadn't gone to the doctor in 3 years. She wasn't apologizing with words. She was apologizing with her absence from her own life. She said, I don't have time, but what she meant was, I don't believe I'm worth the time. And so that's self-abandonment. And that's exactly what we're unlearning in the Confidence Toolkit. We're going to do some exercises here, small steps to take up space. So we're going to do self-trust doesn't come from big declarations. It comes from small moments repeated with love. And I had described in the beginning a story about going to dance in 2014, and that is probably one of the tools, I would say it's probably one of the end tools. So don't do this right away if you're not doing some of the other stuff that's part of the Confidence Toolkit, because then you won't be able to self-soothe yet. But it is something that can help, which is having a goal, right? And my goal was to go try this dancing. And I really wanted to learn partner dancing. I'd done, choreographed dancing, at least had some of that. I knew I loved dancing. And I've always wanted to do swing dancing. So I went and I told myself, you know what? I'm just going to go for the first lesson and then leave. And then next week, I'm going to go to the first lesson and stay for like a little while for the social. Then I'll leave. And I'm going to stay a minute longer. I'm just going to give myself little increments. And then I'm going to start talking to people. And then I'm going to, and I would just add on until I was comfortable, but not any more than what felt good, because this in itself was hard for me. So I just give you that preface of giving yourself a little bit of exposure exercise when you're doing things like this that are changing you. And that goes for pretty much anything. But okay, so let's do another little story about Dante. And I want you to guess what attachment style this person is. And let me just see if I have capacity to see if you have, hang on, restream. It's like stuck in limbo. Just see if I have capacity. For some reason, my restream is not working so well. Yeah, I'm not able to like. Okay, so if you can guess what attachment style. For some reason, my restream is not working so well. Hang on, I'll get that person out. If you can guess what Dante is as an attachment style, that would be great in the comments. But okay, so Dante never fought. He never cried. He ghosted conflict like the plague and called it peace. And one day, instead of disappearing after a miscommunication, he said, "That hurts. I need space to self soothe for 20 minutes, and I'll come back. And I'd hope that you would tell me, you know, what you heard or something." Whatever the need is. I'd hope you tell me, something reassuring, or say sorry, or whatever. That was a breakthrough. I mean, even just saying I'm hurt by something, I mean, that's like huge for this attachment style. And it wasn't really loud. It was like calm, right? It's like kind of emotionally, you're going to find this attachment style, and I'll just share it with you now, is the dismissive avoidant. You're going to find that they don't fight. They are sometimes so calm that it's confusing for others, where they're like, it's just like, oh, but it takes them a real long time to even know that they're hurt, or that they, and then need something. Because first thing, you need to gauge your emotions to know what your needs are. Because if you let your emotions kind of override you in a certain way, which means push them away. Because what happens is, if you're pushing your emotions away, it's pushing against you, and all you can think about is that emotion. As much as you push it away, it's still there. But if you allow it to be and sit with it, it's uncomfortable. If you allow yourself to be uncomfortable, and the better you get at that, the quicker it comes. The quicker not only does the processing of the emotion come for yourself, but also the need, and like the story, what you're telling yourself, and all these steps that you will go through, that I'll teach you in the confidence toolkit. So what was said there is like real confidence, to be confident and trust yourself, that you're going to be okay if you're vulnerable in front of others, but also that if you do that, you kind of learn. There are other steps past that. Like, there are other steps in the confidence toolkit that you will learn, not only in being able to confront, because maybe all of you have done that, right? You've said how you feel, you said what you need, and you get a response that's like, oh my, what do I do now? So there's more to this, right? There's more. And that's why the confidence toolkit is so important, because for me, that next step was hard, setting my boundaries. So we're going to talk a little bit about boundaries, a little bit, but I'm going to tell a story first, of course. So about somebody I don't know. So Michelle said yes to everything and resented all of it. Until one day she simply said, "No, I won't be able to do that, but thank you for thinking of me." And she let it land. No justification, no guilt, just truth. So practicing this, like I prefaced in the beginning of like us knowing our attachment style and how to go out there and stand for ourselves, it takes time, and it's an incremental steps. Start small. Start with things that don't even matter. Meaning, and I always give this example where, because I find myself going out to eat a lot, where I go out to eat and, I ordered the wrong thing. Or, maybe this has happened before, where someone sits down with me and my friend, it might even be the waiter, and just starts chatting it up, where you're in a place that might be surprising. You're like surprised. Oh, damn, that's not what I thought I ordered. Or, oh, I got a piece of hair on this, but I'm not, or it's cold or something. Or I got a seltzer. I ordered a Sprite, but it really was a seltzer. It's like such simple stuff, right? What I suggest is, this is an example. You don't have to do this, but this is a way of testing. This is a way of incrementally getting yourself used to saying no, or confronting, or taking back something that isn't really gonna hurt you that much. You know, the person is not someone you'll probably ever see again, you know, or doesn't really affect your life too much, doesn't really affect their life too much. Go to a restaurant, choose beforehand what you're going to order at the restaurant that isn't what you want. Okay? And then choose beforehand what you want to order. And when you sit down and they ask you what you want to order, choose the one you don't want and just say it out loud. Just like, oh, I want this, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, go your merry way. And then when the dish comes, go, oh, damn, that's not what I want. I can't even eat that. And say it to the waiter and say, I'm so sorry. I can't eat this. And be like, I actually wanted this and I told you the wrong one. Or something. Just be like, oh my God, I don't know. I didn't think this has happened to me, where I go, for some reason I ordered chili and always think it doesn't have meat in it. It's like, damn it, I can't eat this, you know, and things like that happen, and just say no to it. Okay. And sometimes it doesn't have to have an explanation, but this one is like, it happens and we don't like it. Or order a Coke or something, or a soda, and say, oh damn, I ordered the wrong thing. I don't know why I did that. So it's a test. Try it in areas of your life that are easiest. Think ahead of time so that you practice. Because if you have a hard time really standing up for yourself, saying no, but also being more specific about what you want, because that is also a practice here, especially for dismissive avoidance, to stand up and be like, hey, I didn't read all of the ingredients, or I actually really can't have peppers, whatever it is. Okay, so when you abandon yourself, you don't just lose your voice, you lose your sense of safety. And that's where loneliness lives. So like I said in the beginning, this is all about loneliness in the end. And what I learned as a polyamorous person is, although I have multiple partners, that doesn't matter. You could be in a crowd and be lonely. You could have tons of connections. Like I said in the beginning, like 5 or less friends, you can still feel lonely. And it's because of these attachment styles and how you can deal and reprogram and get yourself to being more secure is in what I teach in the Confidence Toolkit for People Pleasers. And that is what this program is all about. So please come back next month. That I think it's the last Monday. Yeah, it's the last Monday of every month. And so confidence, okay, let me start over a little bit. And even when others are around, like I said, if you aren't connected to yourself, then you are isolating yourself, right? And therefore loneliness will appear for you. And that could mean as a dismissive avoidant, a fearful avoidant, or an anxious attachment style. Confidence becomes your inoculation to what loneliness is, which is a disease. It's a dis-ease. And it can create illness. If you didn't know, loneliness is as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It can increase your chances of dementia by 50%. Yes, that's 50%. It is a killer. Confidence is a cure in many ways and a stabilizer. It's a reminder that you belong and you belong mostly to you, got to start there first. So the confidence toolkit, it'll help you shift your unconscious beliefs, like I said, like reprogramming how you speak to yourself, what you believe, what you think, how the world should or shouldn't be and can be. It'll fulfill your core emotional needs. You'll even know what your needs are. You'll know what's yours and what's somebody else's. It'll be able to help you to regulate your nervous system, which means your emotional soothing, your ability to soothe yourself, not just from others like anxious attachment style, but or not close it down and think you don't need anybody else and numb out, but really be able to know what soothing means. And this will help you speak clearer, set boundaries, and stop apologizing for being who you are. So thank you so much for coming today. And this was my first restream through OBS. I don't know if I like it. I think I like Zoom better, but I'll probably do it a different way another time. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please message me on Facebook or through YouTube, or put it in the comments, or just go to my Facebook page, raylifecoaching.com, just right there, /free-resources, and just click on that and get connected, and you'll get all of my free resources and my weekly informational emails that give you more tools that clarify how to do this for you. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day. Let me stop somewhere.